Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Amrit Murali, and today I will be discussing the digital divide and its causes, consequences, and solutions. This presentation will provide you with an understanding of the digital divide, how it affects different sectors of society, and ethical analysis using utilitarianism and a global analysis. So the internet is a fundamental social need of the 21st century due to increasing reliance on technology, especially post-pandemic. Internet-connected devices allow us to connect with other people, socially participate, and can be used as an instrument for change. Having regular access to the internet is essential in many sectors, such as education, commerce, healthcare services, employment, and government programs. In an ideal world, everyone should have access to the internet and have a web-connected gadget, since it is a basic human right. Unfortunately, there are 2.73 billion people globally, roughly 33.8%, who do not use the internet for various reasons in 2024. This uneven distribution is known as the digital divide. The digital divide can be defined as the gap between those who can and cannot access, afford, utilize, or benefit from internet services. It shows the unequal distribution of technology and internet access among different blocks of society. The graphic shows the percentage of individuals using the internet globally. There is a stark contrast between different regions, with most internet connections being centered around North America and Europe. The digital divide first stems from its expensive costs, making it hard to pay for web-connected devices and monthly internet plans. This is especially true for low-income families. The average payment per month for a base subscription plan in the United States of America is $70, which can cut into funds for groceries and utilities. The high cost for technology not only causes low-income families to compromise on having home broadband, but also devices such as laptops or tablets, although they tend to have smartphones. But having just a mobile device has adverse effects, such as students struggling to do digital work their teacher assigned them, or an adult struggling to apply for a remote telecommunications job. In less developed regions globally, the trend is even worse, and considered the primary reason people stay offline. For example, the simplest and most generic phone device costs one-third of monthly salary for an individual in South Asia. Just a phone is a huge investment for most people in developing regions throughout the world. Another cause for the digital divide is accessibility, like whether communities have the equipment required to enable internet connectivity. Internet connections need physical infrastructure, such as fiber optic cables. Rural areas have expansive lands and low household density, making the cost for laying down these cables per capita to be much higher than urban areas. This explains the rural-urban divide, where 78.8% of the urban population uses the internet compared to 48.9% of the rural population. An additional reason to add to accessibility is governmental restrictions. The internet adoption rate in the internet black hole of North Korea is an abysmal 0.01%. This is since the internet is blocked for everyday citizens, with there being only one internet service provider for tourists and high-ranking officials in the government. Restrictions are not just limited to governmental restrictions, but also family disapproval. This is common in developing countries due to people believing that women should prioritize their domestic work and gender discrimination, especially prevalent in Islamic countries. For example, in Afghanistan, with the rule of the Taliban, an Islamic terrorist group, 16% of women own a phone compared to 80% of men. They also face severe restrictions in education. The trend we are seeing is part of the digital gender divide, with women getting the short end of the stick. The last reason for the digital divide is not having digital literacy, which is the ability to effectively use digital technology. The elderly are most affected by this reason because they were not raised with recent technology. The people that don't have digital literacy can't do many things like communicate with family members and access healthcare services. The causes described before have consequences in various sectors that affect daily life. For the educational sector, without sufficient broadband, students cannot complete their homework that requires accessing online resources. These students also have a reduced likelihood of involvement in educational engagement, such as working with other students or emailing their teachers. The next sector heavily impacted is employment. It is difficult to find jobs and search for career advancement opportunities. There are numerous workshops, networking events, online courses, and certifications that can be found online that boost someone's portfolio. Lastly, the healthcare field is affected by the digital divide. Not having an internet-connected device or the digital literacy to access remote health services adversely impact the health of people. So far, I've discussed the digital divide and its consequences. Now we'll focus on the solutions to this issue. One remedy to this problem is to expand internet infrastructure in rural areas. In 2021, the US Congress passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, which allocated $65 billion to bring fast internet to the rural side of the country. Internet service providers that benefit from this fund are required to provide cheap internet to their customers. An additional solution to the digital divide is digital skills training. To utilize internet services, people need to know how to use them, and the best way to do that is through a training course. There are workshops done in community spaces like public libraries. The final solution that I will discuss is the formation of digital inclusion coalitions. These include local governments, educational institutions, social service organizations, and more. Their goal is to advocate for digital inclusion and provide a hub and resource center for related activities. With the combined resources of all these organizations, they can tailor initiatives to the needs of their communities. Utilitarianism is an ethical theory that decides right and wrong by focusing on the outcome and overall well-being produced. The ethical choice is the one that will produce the greatest good for the most amount of people. Using this approach, the digital divide is unethical as it leads to a negative outcome for a large number of people and decreases societal well-being. People that suffer from the digital divide face disadvantages in education, employment, healthcare, and other sectors. These people are stuck in a perpetual cycle of inequality and poverty that adversely affects society and thus limits human capabilities. The first region we will look at will be South America, which has an internet adoption rate of 82.5%, above the global average of 66.2%. Brazil has a noticeable digital divide due to the disparity in income inequality, with favelas, makeshift housing, having little to no internet. Creating community spaces within these favelas may help reduce the digital divide. Countries like Argentina have implemented solutions like Conectar Igualdad. This program is aimed at providing technological resources to students in schools and promote digital inclusion. The next region we'll look at is Western Africa, having an internet adoption rate of 42.3%. It has such a low rate due to lower incomes and lack of infrastructure. Most people don't have access to mobile broadband, and on top of that, cannot afford it. To improve conditions, the World Bank approved $266.5 million to improve internet access in this region. This program aims at making internet less costly and improving existing infrastructure. In the regions discussed, the digital divide is being addressed and the situation will improve. Many of the statistics presented oversimplify the digital divide. For example, the internet adoption rate presents this problem as binary, with those who have internet access and those who don't. The digital divide is more complex than that, such as a statistic ignoring quality of internet access and other factors like access to electricity. In addition, the presentation shows only a picture of how the digital divide looks present day. It makes the digital divide seem static, while it is a dynamic issue changing over time as societies and technology evolves. In this presentation, we have reviewed the concept of the digital divide, its causes, implications, and solutions. The digital divide was also assessed ethically using utilitarianism and analyzed globally in different regions. Lastly, we analyzed counterarguments to the digital divide. Here are the references. Thank you for viewing my presentation on the digital divide.